Okay. Okay, so we can get started, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So, so I wanted to talk to name this talk, a demonstration of my personal Linux setup, but I thought that that would not be very interesting, right? So I called it the year of the Linux desktop. So, um, so basically the idea here is that we are just going to go through a number of programs and tools that are today available on Linux. Some of them have been available on Linux for a long time. Some of them are new. There's especially a renaissance when it comes to, like not only functional tools, but beautiful tools, right? And I'll show a bunch of examples and then you will know what I mean. Um, and so the year of the Linux desktop, right? So this is basically a meme that started in early 1990s. Okay, so in 1994 Linux became 1.0. Okay, so that means like GA, generally available. So before then it was like, hey, run at your own risk. In 1994 is when it became 1.0. So that means it's fit for business, right? And so since then, the year of the Linux desktop, it's been a meme. So it's been what, 30 odd years, right? And as we know, Windows has been like the predominant operating system, right? Um, at one point, probably like 90% or more on the desktop, right? And then Mac OS made some inroads, right? So Mac OS today, it has been since it became Mac OS 10 when they switched to the Intel processor, right? That was when the Mac OS like really started an inroad into the mainstream, right? The cost came down and all that good stuff, right? And so today, Windows is more like 60 to 70% of the desktop market. The rest of the majority of the market share is Mac OS, right? But recently, Linux essentially became about 6%, 5 to 6% of the desktop market share. So that's like a huge milestone. In fact, there's this operating system called CachyOS, if I remember correctly. Or I'm forgetting if it was CachyOS or Novara. Okay, they're both Linux distributions. We'll talk about what that means actually. But since Windows 10 became end of life, right? In 1 month, there were 1 million downloads of their distributions. So this was a big, giant thing on Reddit and Twitter about 3 weeks ago. So that means that Linux is basically making inroads into the mainstream now. Like now it's not, like a fringe element. You will see people, if you're in tech circles, you will see people using Linux as their desktop operating system, right? So that's basically what this talk is all about, to kind of present Linux as a viable computing platform, not for me and for some of you guys who are, like, let's say developers or engineers. You guys are already using Linux, right? It's basically for the grandmas and for the grandpas, right? If you want to set up a system, let's say for your grandpa, as an example, right? Who mainly lives in the browser, for example, and maybe like some office documents or things like that, right? Linux got everything today where you can set it up. And in fact, there are distributions where you set it up and forget it. That's it. Like you just set it up and forget it, just like a Chromebook, but like way more powerful. So what's the hallmark of Chromebook, right? So Chromebook, you essentially have this, like essentially like a shell of a computer, which is like, very functional and very useful. But one of the key features of it is that you do not have to worry about updates, right? So what happens when you shut it down and you start it back up? What Chrome has done in the background, kind of like your, like your Android phone, for example, is that it will download the updates, it will apply the updates, and then when you start your computer the next time, now you are in the new version of the operating system. That makes sense? So the user, no intervention. So now in Linux, we have this thing called immutable distributions, right? So for example, Fedora Silverblue. And then you have distributions of that where people have basically taken Fedora Silverblue, for example, and then have added to it things, right, that are commonly needed by everyone basically, right? And so then what you do is you download, you install, and you have everything you need. And then you just like, every time you shut down your computer, the next time you start, you will have the latest version available. If an update was pushed, basically, right? So that's the idea. So that makes it so that you can take your Windows 10 laptop that is not eligible for upgrade to Windows 11, right? And you can install one of these Linux distributions on it, and then you can literally like forget it. That's it. It will keep updating, and you will be able to use it like normally. Okay. So that's basically the idea. And in discussing this, I'll show a whole bunch of programs and one specific Linux distributions that I got, right? I'll also show you the example of an update, okay? Do we have anyone who has, let's say, upgraded, for example, from Fedora 42 to Fedora 43, let's say? Or pick any version, Fedora, I don't know, 39 to 40. Or Ubuntu from, yeah, Ubuntu, okay. So from 20, let's say from 2204 to 2404, right? It's kind of like an involved affair, right? And things can go wrong, yeah? That happens, right? So in Mac OS, I'm pretty sure most of us have had, right? So what happens when you're doing Mac OS? And God forbid, Windows. Sorry to folks who are using Windows. Like I used to be a big Windows guy, but it's been a long time, okay? So you have many restarts, and then Mac OS, my experience has been that it takes about a good 30 minutes for an update, right? A point release even. Like for example, recently Tahoe 26 was released, right? That was like a 30 minutes or more affair. And then 26.1, same thing, right? Okay, so here I have a virtual machine. Very quickly, I'm going to show you something. You guys can see my screen, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so look at this. I'll talk about what this is, but right now I have this program, and what it does is it tells you, it's called NeoFetch, and what it does is it tells you about your system configuration, right? So the important thing for us to note is that right now it's saying that version 42 point something, right? And this is basically based on Fedora 42, right? And then what I'm doing here is I'm saying you just update, right? Just a simple command. And then it went on and downloaded a good chunk of data, and then it applied the update, right? It is giving me information as to what was updated. Now I manually did this, but this happens on a schedule every Tuesday. And so everything is now kind of updated, right? And the cool thing is that while this update was happening, right, I did not have to shut the computer down. I was working normally, right? Like, like if when it's running in the background, you wouldn't even know that an update is happening, okay? And then all you have to do is you have to reboot the system, okay? So let's reboot it and see what happens. One disclaimer, live demos almost always go wrong, so if that happens, please be kind. Exactly.
And you just demonstrated how complicated it is. You actually have to do a command to reboot instead of pressing a button. You and I understand for development we need this, but for grandma and grandpa.
The reason I say, you're right. You're right, but the reason I said what I said was because you do not have to do what I just showed you.
Okay.
Yeah, that happens in the background, but because I have to demonstrate now, so I have manually done the stuff, if that makes sense, right?
And are you running this on Mac or are you running this on virtual machine?
Oh, so the operating system that I'm running, it's called Bluefin. So Bluefin is basically based on Fedora Silverblue, which is the immutable version of Fedora,
Gotcha.
right? And for those of you guys who are familiar with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Fedora essentially serves as the very first step where packages that will end up in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, that's where their life begins. So you know, Fedora, then CentOS, and then ultimately they land in RHEL, right? Okay, I'll kind of show the desktop element. It is Linux, yes, it is. Yeah, but it's an immutable Linux. That's also a key. Yeah, that's a relatively new thing. I think maybe like in the past 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
probably.
I only started using Linux when I started getting into AI, and I think that's part of the reason why there's a lot of downloads for Ubuntu or
Yeah.
Space, because most AI
Yeah.
is ran on it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So let's see. Let's log into this VM. Okay. So Plasma has been updated to 6.5, whatever. Okay, let's press OK. All right, and then let's go to the command line. Again, the grandmas don't have to do that, but we are just doing it because we. Okay, so let's say neofetch, right? Do you notice something here? It was 42 and now it is 43. So what I've done is I have applied a major upgrade. So I have upgraded from Fedora 42, a major OS upgrade, from 42 to 43, okay? And that was applied in the background while I was working. If I had not manually initiated it, I wouldn't even have noticed it. And then the next time right? So that's why I say that it's for grandmas and grandpas, like they can literally use it. And the cool thing is that, you know, like for example, you don't have to worry about things like antivirus and that kind of stuff. I mean, you can install, and there are pros and cons to it, but as is very usable, right? So anyways, so the one that I'm showing you, I will show you guys two desktops, okay? These are the most prevalent desktops. One is called GNOME, right? So GNOME. Some people call it GNOME as well, but the GNOME is the right pronunciation with the hard G. That's how Stallman pronounces it. Yeah. No, it's yeah. Because people think the garden gnome, you know, that gnome is different. This is GNOME, because the GNU, that is GNU. It's not GNU. It's GNU. That's how Stallman, you know, the guy who did this stuff. So anyways, so there's two major desktop environments. One is called GNOME, right, which is what you're seeing right now, and I will describe its elements. But let's start with the KDE desktop, because that's more familiar to folks who are exposed to, let's say, Windows, right? The GNOME is more like Mac OS, essentially, in its look and feel, right? Okay. So anyways, let's just make sure that we appreciate that we just upgraded from Fedora 42 to Fedora 43, just like that, okay? And you know what is cool is that if as a result of the upgrade, something broke on my system, right, that I can downgrade with just one command, okay? So for example, let's see, RPM OS3 status, okay? So it's going to show me two images, right? This is the image that I'm running right now. That's the version. The version that I upgraded from is this guy, okay? Now, in order for me to downgrade, all I have to do is say rollback. And I will then basically boot into 42. And that's it. And it's not just that you can bounce back between these two. So every version that these guys publish, just like containers, if you guys are familiar with containers, so essentially you can do something like, for example, if I go and do this, so sudo boot c, right? You see this? So I can actually switch. So right now I'm running stable, but if I want to, I can switch to the 1024 version of the operating system. Okay? And this is not just like a theoretical thing. I actually had to do this because the latest version broke my DaVinci Resolve installation. And the reason I say that is because even with all the enhancements and everything, sometimes it so happens that that an update will break something for you. Now it does not happen frequently, but sometimes it does. And when it does, what you want is an operating system that will allow you to kind of freely move back and forth between the versions, right? Where you can go to a stable version that you know works for your hardware and software combination, right? Here's an example. So my MacBook Pro, I upgraded it to Tahoe, right? I like latest software, and so the day that it came out, I basically downloaded and installed it, and I did not like the look and feel. And if you guys are in Reddit and these kind of circles, you will know there's tons of problems with it, right? And so I did not like it. It had tons of bugs and whatnot. But guess what? I couldn't downgrade. My only app, yeah.
I feel your pain. I upgraded to iOS 26. I can't go back.
There you go. There you go. So you know what I'm talking about. Exactly.
They used to say they have a time machine, and every time I tried
No,
to
Time Machine is personal data. That's not operating system. So Time Machine will essentially back up your home directory. And so it's actually a really awesome program for backups, right? Huh? It doesn't work? It has worked for me always except one instance. Yeah. So that happens. I mean, yeah. But I like it, you know. So anyways, I have been a long time Mac user. In the past, I've used Windows. So and essentially, like everyone in my house has many Apple devices. The only guy with a non-Apple device is this computer, right? And I still have a MacBook, right? So so it's not coming from someone who doesn't like, let's say, Mac or whatever, right? So just want to clarify that. Okay, so now that we have established that, first of all, it's kind of user-friendly. You can install and then forget it. You do not have to do any maintenance on it, right? Other than installing software that you want. And that you can install and then you can forget it. So that means it's suitable for folks who are not that tech savvy, right? Of course, you will have to provide support from time to time. I mean, that's understandable, right? Especially, I would urge you guys, if you guys have relatives who are on Windows 10, right? Like move them off of Windows 10 because it's end of life. That means no security updates and whatnot, and so that means that they are potentially vulnerable to attacks and that kind of stuff, right? So move them off. Many computers are not eligible for Windows 11 upgrade. That means you have two options. You either buy them a new machine that can install Windows 11, or buy them a MacBook, right? Or install Linux on their existing Windows 10 machine, right? Make sense?
Does it build?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even as a second boot?
You don't have to do second boot. Just make sure you take a backup of their data, and then install, and then move the data back. That's it. Okay?
Question. So based on your experience, is it the core OS actually maybe better for basically replacing the Windows 10
Yeah.
for kids, or at least, or for parents who actually is not in the next?
It's a very good option, yes. I personally do not know if you can install it on any machine like that. If you can, then that's also a very good option. Yes. It's a very good option, yes. Okay. So now, let's kind of quickly take an overview of the desktop and some software, right? And how you can get new software, right? And then we can also look at the KDE version. And then we're going to drop down to the terminal for the nerds among us, right? So that you guys can see that terminal can be beautiful, not just functional and powerful, but beautiful, okay? All right, so this is basically the GNOME operating system. Oh, one thing, shout out to MacBook batteries. The battery life is amazing. So right now, I charge my battery to 80%. I do not allow it to go past that. So right now I'm at 64. My extra charger is sitting over there, so I'll just plug it in at some point. Okay. But anyways, so this is the desktop environment. So there, if you press the Start key, right, or the Windows key, you have a bunch of elements here. So you can search to open any application. For example, if I say Firefox, right, I can do that. Or I can click one of the icons. I mean, just normal computing, nothing special here, right? Or I can press this combination of command Windows A, right, and then type. And it is, what happens is, in this case, it is showing me all the workspaces I have open, right? So these are workspaces, right? So I can swipe between the workspaces using the 3-finger swipe. On Mac OS, I believe it's 4 fingers. So I can do that, right?
Do you have a word processor?
Yes. Yep. So let's open the word processor. Okay. So the word processor here is called Writer. Okay. And if I press enter. Okay. So right now I have the night theme running. Maybe we can just so that you guys also see what you might be running during the daytime, right? So let's see. Okay, so let me just do so this was an example where I had to drop into the terminal to do something. Okay, okay, so what I do is I have this little script called restyle, right? And then I have 3 options: dark, light, and mixed. So mixed, you see the top bar is black, right? It's dark, and the rest of the stuff is like normal, right? So anyways, that's how I moved to the dark theme. So now I'm in the light theme, right? So let's go to the word processor. This is how it's going to look like. Now I don't know how it's kind of too big, as you can see, is because the resolution, right? So what I've done is mirrored my screen onto this, right? So it kind of seems a little busy.
So can you open this file in Microsoft?
You can. You can. So for example, the way this works is, let's see. So if I say save as, or maybe I will have to do an export, right? You see here. So Word, it goes all the way back to like Word 2003 and even before then. So if you save it as the default format is ODT, right? That's the default format. But you can say save as, and then you can pick whatever format you want. So for example, if you are 2010 or 365 Office document, then you will be able to open it. That makes sense? Okay. So from the perspective of interoperability, this guy works fine. Let me do something just so that you guys see the real, how it might look like, for example. I'm just making it so that, yeah, that's the downside that I have too. Kind of go there and then see. Okay, now some stuff is over there that I can't even see, but okay. Just want to show you guys the processor in a little bit more realistic environment if I can find it. If not, then we will just go back to mirroring. Was it this one? Yeah. Yeah, and then I also want to this guy. Okay. So this is kind of how you would keep it, right? Because it's high resolution display. And okay. So you see, like, this is kind of how it's going to look like for you, right? Just like Word normally. So I'm going to go back to the mirroring so I can see what's going on.
What is the percentage of Windows user versus Linux user?
Today it's about 60 to 70% Windows. 15-20% is Mac, and about, depending on who you ask, about 5 to 7% is Linux. Right, so that's kind of how it is right now.
Which distro is the most common distro?
I'll show you. These days it's Cashy OS. Where's my cursor? Do you guys see it?
Just pass.
Where is it?
In Shibam.
That's a good one. Okay, let me just take it off and then put it back in, see what happens.
I would have expected Ubuntu to be the consumer one and Red Hat to be enterprise.
It is kind of like that, but a lot of people are hating on Ubuntu because of snaps.
Snaps?
Yeah. Let me fix this. I'll tell you what I mean. How are you, Mahmoud? Okay, so at least it's 200% now here. Let me just plug it in, see what happens here. And if I can mirror then.
Probably because you're still in display.
I just can't see the mouse. Like, where? Oh, there you go. Okay, thank you. Mirror and apply. Keep changes, and let's make it 200%.
Can we turn off the night light as well?
Huh? Yeah, I have night light on. Let me turn it off.
It's right there.
Yeah. Oh, I can just do it from here. Okay, there you go. Okay, so is it burning your eyes now?
Yes.
Earlier it was. I can switch it back if you want. Okay. Okay.
I just turn off the light. Burn your eyeball.
Okay. So we were looking at the word processor, right? So that's the word processor, and it's, you have, for example, Impress, which is like the PowerPoint, just like that PowerPoint stuff. Just pick whatever. A theme, same kind of stuff. You have Excel. It's called LibreOffice Calc here, right? Essentially, it's kind of more or less the same thing, right? And then.
I just want to make sure of one thing. Does it support different language like Arabic from right to?
Oh yeah. It does actually.
Okay.
Good thing you asked. So let's go to writer again. Let's test it. Look at this.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's Urdu, right? Let's see.
Do you have the letters on your keyboard?
Yeah. No.
Oh, no. Oh, you just know it.
I mean, it's like what is it called? Like a Roman style, whatever.
Yeah, QWERTY.
Numerals kind of thingy.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So it does work. So Urdu is kind of right to left as well. So Arabic will work better actually. Because Urdu is more like like a smaller niche, Arabic and English, it's like more common and prevalent, right?
How about adding printers, adding?
Oh yeah, yeah. So let's go to printers.
We can
Oh.
see. Also, you're not sharing your screen anymore on Google Meet.
Oh, the Google Meet thingy.
Yeah, because I think when you switched it, it
All right, let's go back and
Yeah, your screen is back here.
share entire screen, share, right? Okay.
Yeah.
You can move forward, just.
Yeah, I guess that's a good idea. Okay. So yeah, we have printers, right? So I was going to show you printers.
Works better than Windows for printers, actually.
Oh yeah, actually.
Yeah, in my experience, it's
Not mine.
better than Mac as well.
So here's the thing. So Mac OS is amazing if you follow the general approach that they have to computing, right? But if you deviate from it, it kind of actively is hostile to the user. For example, if you're using the trackpad, it's amazing, smooth scrolling and all of that good stuff, right? But I, for example, use a mouse with a trackball. Thank you, right? And so when you want to scroll, right, and it is true for any mouse, right? It's jittery, like it's not smooth, right? And there's no way to use the mouse, for example, to switch between the workspaces, for example, right? And there's tons of small things like that, but cumulatively, they kind of like, you know, like you can feel that, hey, you know, they just don't like you for not using the things that they want you to use, right? So, okay. So, and you're right, printers work perfectly without you having to install anything. Like my Logitech trackball mouse, the driver's already here. Like I do not have to install anything. Back, forward, all of that stuff works. On Mac OS, it doesn't work, right? So like I said, if you're using touchpad on Mac OS, perfect. If you're using mouse or something like that, then you have to jump extra hoops to get basic functionality, like back and forward buttons in the browser, right?
I paid $2 for an app called MouseFix.
There you go. I have that one too.
On Mac.
Can you believe that? Okay.
Can we go the other way? What things give you trouble?
Yes, I will talk about that. So one of the things I mentioned already, the things that will give you trouble, right? So I use this software called DaVinci Resolve. I do not do much, a lot of video editing at all. I'm kind of trying to get into that stuff, just to kind of learn the stuff. So I use this tool called DaVinci Resolve, right? So it's like a Final Cut Pro's counterpart, especially if you're not on Mac OS, right? So it was working fine. When the upgrade that I just showed you in the VM, when I applied that update to my operating system, and I don't know, like a week later, when I just let's just go to DaVinci Resolve, and when I launched it, DaVinci Resolve would be stuck on the splash screen, and the reason is that the DaVinci Resolve that I have installed, it's installed in something called DistroBox, which is a container. I'll talk about that stuff, right? And the Fedora in the distro box is Fedora 42, while the Fedora on my laptop is Fedora 43. And so the graphics driver Mesa, the version is different in the distro box and the operating system, right? And so that's why it is not launching. So that's an example where as a user, you would not even be aware that anything like that. You see what I'm saying? Like I already know too much, like I shouldn't have to know this stuff, what is described. But when you're on Linux, you are kind of forced to understand and know these things. The downside of this is that you are spending cycles on things that are not necessarily adding business value, right? But the positive side is that you are learning to troubleshoot, you are learning new ways of doing the same thing, and so this is good exercise for your brain. But not only that, it pays you well, because if you're in the market and you know Linux, for example, DevOps is all Linux for the most part, right? If you're a programmer, hopefully you're building something you are going to ship. When you ship, what is your target environment? That's basically almost almost exclusively, I want to say, like 95 to 99% is Linux, right? So when you are struggling with the Linux situations from time to time, what is happening is you are learning skills, valuable skills that you are going to be able to apply to your work, if that makes sense.
Well, teaching yourself, but where do you go to look it up?
Oh, Google manuals, documentation, the websites or the program that you are trying to troubleshoot. If all else fails, ChatGPT is there.
I'll check with that. I'm
Is there
sorry.
parent control?
Next
Huh?
time.
Yes, yes. So parental controls is a new thing in Fedora 43. I do not use it, by the way. So like I said, my wife, my kids, everyone has like a Apple device. I also have like a watch, an iPad, an iPhone, a MacBook Pro, right? This laptop I bought in 2024 March simply because I like the mission of this company, right? And I was like, hey, just to play, it's like a toy you buy yourself. And it turned out to be so good that now, for the most part, I use this guy. And
What is this?
it's called Framework. Yeah, the company is called Framework. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story about the Framework. I was going to show you guys something. Someone asked a question. Parental control, right? It has parental controls. Yeah, right here. Yeah, but I haven't used them. So you can add a user and then do a bunch of stuff like screen time, downtime, all of that good stuff. I use the Mac OS screen time, the Apple screen time, and that's not just enough. Kids are too creative these days. So I also have a Next DNS, right?
What is it, bro?
That's amazing. If you are a parent, make sure you have Next DNS and you have configured all the devices with Next DNS. It's only, I think, $5.99 if I remember correctly for the year, right? And it's just like, I cannot recommend it enough, okay? Huh?
Why?
That's a long, long topic, but very briefly, anytime anyone's accessing any website, right, it goes through the Next DNS servers, right? And so what happens is that then you can control, so the internet, as you know, can be a wild place, right? So you can control what's accessible based on age and other criteria to any device that's connected, right? And you can also automatically block ads. So like your internet experience is going to be so much smoother and better when you have something like Next DNS.
Is it hardware or software?
Huh? It is software.
Software.
Yeah. Okay. So actually this talk is kind of going exactly how I had thought about it. It was that it's going to pique interest and there's going to be questions. We're going to get into stuff, right? But let me quickly show you the Next DNS thing. Okay, very quickly. So for example, if I go to my.nextdns.io, so this is a whole bunch of profiles that I have created here, right? So work is my work devices are on this profile. Adults is like my personal devices, my wife. Teens, I have one teen, so that's on this profile, right? And then kids, right? And the school devices are specifically on the school profile. And so then I have, under parental controls, I have then configured the things that they should be allowed to access and not and whatnot, right? And I can look at logs and allow, deny list, all of that kind of good stuff. I can control everything, including disabling ads, so that when you are using your device, you do not have to worry about these ads and all that kind of stuff. That makes sense?
How to connect this to your router?
Okay, so in Windows, it should be very easy. In Mac OS also should be relatively straightforward, not flexible. Easy doesn't mean flexible, right? But here's, if you go to setup, right, it says right here, setup. It says based on my operating system, it has detected that it's Linux, and it is telling you that the recommended approach is to use systemd resolve D, right, and then do this. So many of you guys are going to be like, what is this? I don't want to deal with this, right? And that's understandable, right? There's other approaches, but if you are on Linux, some level of dealing with this stuff that comes with the, it's part of the game, right? Like if you want to work at big tech, you have to do lead code. You have to get good at it. That's it. You may not like it, but if you that makes sense? Okay. So if you are on Mac OS, right? then basically what you have to do is you have to download a little profile and then double click it. macOS will do a pop-up, and then you say install, and then you will have it installed as a DNS profile. That's very simple on Mac, and I believe on Windows also. So here on Linux, the way that I have configured this is basically, so here's what I do, okay? So I say next DNS status. It says enabled, and the profile is work, right? And what is this next DNS? It is a custom script. So for example, I can say, okay, so we are now getting into a little bit of terminal. So that's good. So this is a little bit of code here, right?
You created this code or the profile you downloaded?
I created it myself, but what goes into basically what happens is you see the blurb that on the website, Linux, right? So this blurb, so you see I have like 5 different profiles. So when my son comes in, for example, right, and he says, hey dad, I should be able to access some website and I'm not able to access it, for example, right? I can make change and then I can say, okay, go check, then he doesn't come back, it doesn't work, and you see what I mean? It can get kind of tiresome. So what do? I can simply come here and I can say next DNS, right? And then I can say enable, let's get help, right? So it says next DNS enable, and then the profile, which is optional. The default is work profile for me because it's my machine, but I can do something like enable, and then I can say, for example, let's say kids or teens or whatever, and then it will enable that profile. So that means I can test without involving the kid, and then when I'm satisfied with the settings, I will switch back to the work profile here, and I'll say, hey, you know what, you're in business. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So this is the kind of flexibility that you only get on Linux.
Can I block Roblox here?
You can, yes. You can.
Thank you.
Seriously. Yeah.
Hey, why all this blocking? This is America.
That's a good one.
All the social services, they
So
all
so Mahmoud,
till 16.
I know he uses Mac OS, right? And terminal as well.
Yes.
Probably you also. Does it surprise you that you have this full syntax highlighting here, and or have you been exposed to this before?
Yeah, if you are using, there's a lot of terminals. So I'm using Fish.
Fish.
ZSH, it has
Mine is ZSH with O my ZSH. Yeah. Okay.
Fish actually have
Fish is
code.
good.
Okay.
Bash doesn't have it.
Okay. Okay. Let me surprise you here. Okay. Actually, no. Let's just go to this.
I like your my ZSH configuration.
Yeah. So let me surprise you guys. Okay. Now tell me if you have seen this.
Oh, I have not. What is this? What's the whole IDE? What is this?
It is Git.
Oh, this is Git management.
Yeah. It is basically, it is showing you the difference between the current version and the version that's already checked into the repository. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay. I'll come back. This is like a little bit of
Cool tool.
yeah. So
Cool, that's
okay.
You can't just say cool, you have to say why.
I'm gonna talk about. So let's finish our
When you don't get that in terminal.
you don't get this in terminal is like just black and white stuff.
Just like DOS. No days.
So in Linux, you can literally customize everything.
Yeah.
So what the nerds like to do is they even customize their terminal.
Yeah.
So like instead of
What
just
you're
black and
saying
white,
is
there's plugins for that and stuff as well.
What you're saying is we're gonna cut it up and see the intestines. Okay, now what?
So
So
it's
now
like
you
going to
can
the it's a bunch of so just to
Essentially.
you might help you might appreciate it if I said it like this. When you go to the gym, right, you do a bunch of weight exercises and that kind of stuff, right? Someone who is not aware of what this is all about, they might say, oh, I don't know, this guy's just weighting lift or whatever. Why are you even doing this stuff, right? But what that guy doesn't know is that entire activity is making the guy stronger, right?
Yes.
And helping him, hopefully, inshallah, live longer and all of that stuff, right? Exactly. That's the same idea here.
Makes you more productive.
One of the main reasons why I am using this guy as my main machine is that whenever I'm doing anything here, that is knowledge that can I directly take and apply it at work. When I'm on Mac OS, for example, I still get the Unix terminal, but the tools and whatnot I'm using, other than the basics, right, are Mac specific, or I simply do stuff in the GUI. For example, if I want to flush my DNS cache, right, or if I want to make changes to my resolve deconfig, right, on Mac OS you don't even have that. And
you don't have like SC.
I mean, you have it, but it's Mac specific, right? So even if I learn that, it's not helping me at work. That's what I'm saying. And that there's tons of things like that. That's why, especially if you're a developer, you know, it helps to kind of have this, right? Okay. So what if you want new software that you want to install?
I'm not getting the answer that I want.
Yeah.
Let me clarify my question.
Yeah.
I have two sons. They both started driving a year apart. And you know this generation is all automatic gear shifts. But our generation, we had the manual.
Yeah.
The younger one figured out how to do the manual, and he taught himself how to use the manual. And he looks at the RPM, and he knows when to do that. What is he actually gaining from this information, except just understanding under the hood?
Yeah, so just understanding under the hood enables him to troubleshoot if he gets into a problem, right, where he has to, like for example, on the road. If he is in a situation, right, compared to someone who doesn't know under the hood at all, he's going to be, yeah, but you know, the 800 thingy, I went to, I'll give you an example, right? So I went to, the 800 is not always available, even when you know it's available. When I went to Mackinac, so my sister and my brother-in-law and our family, we went to Mackinac, right? So we spent there a couple days. When we were coming back, right, my daughter, so she's like 7 years old, she's like, I'm gonna go to the pool, right? So we were like, so we were totally not planning to go to the pool, right? But she was like, no, I wanna go to the pool. We were like, okay, let's go. And because in my mind, at least, I was not prepared, so even though I emptied my pockets, my car key, you know, so I jumped in the pool, and then, you know, it gets wet and all that stuff. And now this is Mackinac, okay? I have AAA membership and all of that good stuff. Now I'm calling them, and they are doing their best to get me the help that I need, but it's the weekend, and it's like Mackinac, no one's available. They don't even have anyone that serves someone like that far out. Yeah? So then I had to spend the weekend opening the key. Yeah? So if I knew better, I would have kind of done something with the key. Ultimately, the key itself worked, actually, after a day and a half. Yeah. So this is one thing, right? But the Linux thing is much more different. This is an analogy, but analogies break down, as you know, right? In the Linux world, everything that you do is directly applicable to your work. It is making you better. If you are a software engineer, a developer, then it makes it so that you are getting better at doing your job. That's like a direct benefit. To someone like grandpas and grandmas, and someone who is not even like a software engineer, what's the benefit? Is that if you are buying a MacBook, for example, let's say you're buying a MacBook Pro, that's like, I don't know, like $2,000 if you're just going with the basic configuration, right? Something that's similarly powerful, you can easily get for $1,200, $1,300 when it comes to a not MacBook Pro computer. Then you install Linux on it, you have to pay $0, right? All the software I'm showing you is all free. So multiple, depends on how you are looking at it, different benefits, right? So now here's the software store. So you can basically just search for whatever you want and then install it. For example, if you are into video editing, if you're a graphics kind of a guy and you are into Photoshop, right? On Linux, Photoshop's not available, but the counterpart is called GIMP, right? And it is basically a very powerful tool that is a replacement for GIMP, right? If you are into Hollywood and doing 3D modeling and that kind of characters, right? You know what they use? They use Blender. Blender is an open source tool. Okay, it's available on Linux and basically Windows and Mac OS as well. Okay, so powerful software that you have available, most of it for free. You can donate. you know, and we should, but you don't have to. Especially the thing I like is that you do not have to buy the $3 app to make basic stuff work. Okay, perfect. Now, how about some? Okay, so these are kind of the desktop elements, right? We just kind of talked about this. This is basic stuff, normal stuff, nothing special about it. What if you're coming from Windows and you kind of like your start menu and that kind of stuff? So the one that I'm running is called Bluefin. Okay. The one that I'm showing you now, it's called Aurora, and this is basically KDE-based desktops. And so if you're coming from Windows, you know, you have exactly the same elements, kind of, right? So you have a start menu and, you know, a whole bunch of stuff like the same software center. You can, you know, search and install and download stuff. It's a VM. This is a VM, yeah. You know, like your browser and this and that, all of that stuff works, right?
So what is the best, like what is the first step to me to install all this in my Windows machine? Just download the virtual machine.
You want to get, oh, just the VM? So Windows, I think, has its own tooling. What is it called?
Linux subsystem?
No, I think he's talking about virtual machine.
Oh, VM.
Yeah. Windows hypervisor, I think it's called, but what's the name of it? Yeah, so Microsoft has a Hyper-V. It's called, I mean, the name is Hyper-V. It's a hypervisor, essentially a virtual machine kind of a thingy. So you can install VMs in that, right? Okay. And like file manager, this is like more the Windows style kind of file manager. If I am doing this on my Bluefin, then this is how it looks like, right? But same elements. The point I'm trying to make it is that if you have any experience doing computing, the Linux that we have today, the desktop environments, they are equally, if not more, user-friendly. Okay? So especially if you go with operating systems like Bluefin and Aurora, especially because they're immutable, you just set them and forget them. Okay? Perfect. So that is basically an overview of the desktop environment. Okay?
Can you ask me how much is cost the framework?
So framework, they have different configuration. It depends on what you want, right? This machine that I have configured, you cannot get it for this price today. But I have, when I bought this, it was about $1,800. Okay? But $1,800, what do you get for $1,800? Right? Okay, let's see. So here's what you get for $1,800. Yeah, this is another terminal tool.
It's a lot nicer than H-Top.
Exactly. So it's called Meetup. So I have about I think what 24 cores, right?
24?
Cores.
On the CPU, yeah.
And I have 96 GB of memory. Okay.
6 GB RAM?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Very cheap.
And
I mean, these days.
the machine, the RAM that I bought in July, I think in July, that was $162 for 96 GB because it was some deal was going on. The actual price of it at that time was $250. Today it is $650.
Yeah,
RAM prices are hiking up.
Why?
AI.
AI, yeah.
Sam is grabbing everything that he can.
AI companies need a lot of RAM,
So how much is
RAM companies
this
just
one?
Today, if you configure the same configuration, is probably going to be $2,500. But you do not have to have 96 GB of memory. You can set it up with 32 GB of memory. It's powerful. That makes sense. Okay. So do we have any questions when it comes to so you know the two major desktops are GNOME and KDE, right? KDE is more Windows-like, GNOME is more Mac OS-like, right? We have like word processors, Excel sheets, all of that kind of software is available. If you're a video editor, software is available. We explored the software center very quickly. You know, tons of software available, like high quality software available, right? To the extent, like I said, DaVinci Resolve So okay, so
Download.
yeah, um, so if you go to, for example, the FlatHub page, um, these guys actually have not implemented the rating system yet.
That's the only thing I need in the App Store because I don't know if I'm wasting my time.
So if you are using the GNOME software, it's the built-in software. What I'm using right now is called Bazaar. That's like a newer, up-and-coming thing. So they have not yet implemented the star system, right? But if you go with the vanilla software, the application is called software in GNOME. It has the reviews, right? What you can do here is that it is telling you here that this is unverified. Unverified doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It simply means that the developer of this application chose not to register with these guys. And that's totally normal.
I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm a beta tester for a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
Why do you want Bazaar? Why did you?
Mainly because the distribution I'm using, Bluefin, they have gone with Bazaar because software has its own issues. So they have gone with Bazaar. And I don't want to customize it from what my distribution is giving me, if that makes sense. Yeah? The thing that you want to focus on, just one quick second, is that here it is telling you it is potentially unsafe. Does not hold, yeah, it sounds scary, but it is, you have to, like Blender is a standard, it's industry standard. It's literally industry standard. If you are doing 3D work in the Hollywood, for example, they use Blender, right? So, so whatever you are trying to install, you would kind of know about this stuff, right? A lot of the software is done by verified people right here. Also, you can go look at the source code, like right here, for example. If you go to Blender.org, you will be able to look at the source. It's open source right here, right? It's on GitHub. So there's many ways, and we can get into like how to verify some of the stuff you want to install. But the cool thing is that whatever you're installing from the software from Bazaar or Software Center, in this case, it is installed in a sandboxed environment. That makes sense?
Oh my God, this is so cool.
So that means that if I'm installing something, it cannot do anything that I do not allow it to do. That makes sense? It will ask for permission. For example, when I installed this software called Camera, right? This guy, the first time that I launched it, it basically did a pop-up. It was saying, hey, this software is trying to access camera. Do you want to allow it or no? And so I said allow, right? So because this software is sandboxed, it will not be able to do things that you do not want it to do, if that makes sense, right? And then again, this is a little, again, more technical. We're getting into more technical stuff, but there's something called Flat Seal. It's a software. What it does is every software that you got on your system, right? You can just go and take a peek at what permissions it is accessing.
This is a Fedora thing?
This is a Fedora thing. It's basically it's a FlatHub thing.
Yeah, I've never used FlatHub.
Yeah. So FlatHub is the same thing as Snap if you are on
Yeah, I
Ubuntu.
use Snap, but
So
Snap doesn't have.
so the Snap counterpart is called FlatHub or Flatpak.
Yeah.
And then Flatpak's registry, where all the Flatpaks are uploaded, is called FlatHub. And then Flat Seal allows you to see and give or take permissions from these software.
Snap doesn't have this, right?
Snap doesn't, probably, yeah, Snap doesn't have it.
Because it installs it like directly. I don't think it does any.
Yeah.
It just installs on bare metal.
If I do this kind of beta testing mentality, I would never save my credit card.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Everything is sandboxed now in my whole life after I do this.
it is sandboxed, yes. But that, still the common sense, that always helps. So
That's why you need a MacBook.
pretty, I mean, like the MacBook is gonna giving you those. What is the good thing about MacBook is that when you install something, it is giving you those pop-ups, right? So this also gives you those pop-ups.
If everything is open source,
Yeah.
who paid for these people to volunteer?
It's volunteers. Who is paying me to give this talk today? Are you, Mahmoud? Are you paying me, Mahmoud? Oh, he's not paying me. I come here every Sunday from 2. I think is it for 2? It's from 2.
Yeah. 2:30.
I think 2:30. From 2:30 to 4.
Yeah.
Like we do lead code interview preps, right? So I'm here every Saturday. Is it Saturday, right? Saturday, yeah. I'm forgetting. Hopefully, I make it to this session. I mean, no one's paying me, right?
Because of Allah, but these
Yeah.
people, they don't believe in Allah.
I mean, everyone's got their, you know. So, so of course, the reward, the hasanat, that is there. But there's also a more selfish reason as well, right? When I do those lead code things, all of that stuff is kind of like reloaded in my brain, essentially. It's a refresher for me, if that makes sense, right? So similarly, when you are building this stuff, you are learning, plus you are building a name for yourself. When you go looking for a job, oh, this is the guy who has these 15 commits on the Blender software.
To look for a job, even if you're sitting in the same job,
Yeah.
the way you talk to your colleagues, and
Yeah.
yesterday I was listening to lead code, yesterday I was listening to Linux, you have bragging rights.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's all volunteer based. And lots of people make a lot of money out of it as well, plus donations, right? Donations. Like for example, I for quite a bit, I have been paying like $5 a month to the Bluefin operating system, right? I just canceled the donation like this past month. I'm gonna go back to the donation, but the point is that people donate, right? I donate. Lots of people donate. So the guys who are actually working on it, they make money, good money as well.
ChatGPT is a non-profit company. I mean,
There you go.
Is the user percentage of users like only
5 to 7%.
So if it's free,
Yeah.
and it is like,
I'll give you the main reason.
it's a beautiful life.
The main reason is that when you buy a computer from OEMs, ThinkPad, what is it, Dell, Asus, for example, Windows come pre-installed. The typical, and prepaid as well. If you're buying the Pro license, that's $199, and the home version, I think, is probably $100. So the price is baked into the machine. You're paying for it, and then when you are, like a non-technical user, for example, you are not touching, you're not installing another operating system. That's why, right? Remember, in the 90s, Microsoft had to kind of fight this monopoly and that kind of case, right? And it was related to the fact that they had Internet Explorer pre-installed for free when Netscape Navigator, which later on, like the same DNA, became Firefox, right? That was like the guy who invented the browser, and as far as I remember, it was a paid software. And then what happened with Windows is that Internet Explorer started shipping as part of the operating system for free, right?
And it will even pop up when you power it.
And so, and so if you have a browser installed on your computer for free and by default ready to go, why would you go download Netscape and then install it, especially if you're non-technical? And so that's how Microsoft beat Navigator, even though Navigator was a better operating system by every metric, right? So what comes by default is a huge deal. Okay, so that's one of the reasons, right?
So Microsoft paid like for Dell and for all of them.
Yes, tons. Yeah. You gotta grease the wheels for things to work. Okay, so so the desktop environments we covered, right? Any questions? And we also covered a whole bunch of other related questions, like Next DNS. Definitely, every parent should have Next DNS and configured on their router and everything, right? We talked about parental controls and that kind of stuff, although I have not personally used it on here. And then we talked about the KDE and GNOME version of the desktop, right? Someone asked which one is the most famous, I guess, or most commonly used, right? So there is a website, it's called DistroWatch. No, DistroWatch. So
That is so 1990.
yeah, this is exactly the exact, you're right. So DistroWatch is basically telling you which operating system these days is kind of like on the upward trend or whatever. So Cashy OS, there are 3 major lineages, right? If you guys have, who is into vampires? Vampires. Vampire, okay. Vampires, zombies, werewolves, no one?
Zombies, yeah.
Okay, zombies, yeah? Okay. So anyways, this is only going to work for vampires, not zombies. So, sorry. Basically, what happens with vampires is that if you are bit by a vampire, right? Unless the vampire drains you completely, you're going to come back to life. You know?
Yeah, you're infected.
Yeah, you're infected. You become a vampire, right? But then you are from the lineage of the guy, the vampire who sired you, right? And so what happens is in a lot of these movies and TV dramas, if someone kills the vampire who sired you directly or indirectly, the entire tree is gone. That makes sense? So the reason I mentioned this is because the lineages also are essentially forming a tree. Okay? So the three major
You don't need vampires. When Bitcoin falls, we're all fall.
exactly. So the major distributions, you got the RHEL-based distributions, yeah, Red Hat Enterprise Linux-based distributions, which are RPM-based distributions, right? And then you have a Debian-based distribution. So Ubuntu is deriving from Debian, right? And then you have Arch Linux. Arch Linux is the third, and there are others as well, but these are the three top most commonly used distributions. So from RHEL, for example, the one I'm using is Bluefin. Bluefin is Silverblue. Silverblue is Fedora, and Fedora is essentially, the where it starts for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, it's not Arch-based.
No, mine is not Arch-based. Yeah. So mine is Bluefin, based on Fedora Silverblue, based on Fedora, basically.
You know what chapter I'm teaching today?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does not have any probability, but it definitely has trees. It is a tree for sure. Then you have Debian. Debian has Ubuntu, so Ubuntu is coming from Debian basically. And then there are other distributions that are derived from Ubuntu as well. For example, Pop! OS, right? Arch Linux, it's volunteers.
It's all public.
It's all public. All the source code, everything's available.
Contribute.
Yeah.
Anyone can contribute.
It's not like Red
How
Hat.
many lines they like,
You can add your own
aside that?
right now.
Millions of lines
You
of
can
code.
extend the tree created you.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it.
So the third one is Arch Linux. Arch Linux is the one that is very raw,
Yeah.
right? Where when you install it, it just gives you a terminal. You do not have anything installed, and so you choose what to install, and you have to do it yourself. So
Why are people trying the new one when they could just use the first one?
you can use whatever works for you.
Pretty.
Yeah. Every other distribution that is basically derived from something, they are doing something that is missing from that distribution. For example, Fedora. So Fedora has this stance that we will only include open source stuff, no proprietary drivers, right? So that means if I want a normal, non-immutable system, I will install Fedora. But then I have to install all the drivers, the codecs, the videos, and this and that. All of this, I have to do it myself. If I want an immutable version, then I will go to Fedora Silverblue, but same problem, I will have to do it. So what the Bluefin folks have done, and it is true for every distribution, right? Every distribution brings in some value. What they have done is they say, you know what, 1 million people downloads Fedora, and all 1 million of them have to install codecs so that when they go to Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, when they swipe up, they should be able to get their fix, right? Why should they have to work extra hard to that fix, yeah? So what the Bluefin folks have done then, and every other distribution, is that they add some kind of a value add. So the Bluefin folks have installed a whole bunch of things. For example, codecs, drivers, developer tools, all of that good stuff, right?
Why you asked about the printer?
Printer, that comes with the base Fedora. So while we are doing this, let me just quickly for the developers, okay? Very quickly, let me do something. Have you installed, or whoever is doing development, right? I know you are doing CS as well, right? Okay. Anyone who has installed Docker on your system? On Ubuntu or Mac OS?
Both Windows.
But Ubuntu is a lot of work, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It takes a long time.
Okay. So let's see.
Different terminal.
So let's do this. Let's see
Oh,
this,
and
okay?
also it breaks all the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
So
reinstalled it at least 10 times.
so if there is one argument for, I've already given you some amazing arguments for why you should try immutable distributions, right?
Yeah.
Like the updates when it happens, you can continue to work. And if something goes wrong, you can roll back, right?
That's really nice.
That's like absolutely, you always have a working system, period.
But what happens if you change configs like in Etsy or something? Like the DNS thing, right?
Yeah.
You change the config.
Yeah.
Doesn't that expose you to possibly breaking your system?
Um,
And it's not saved.
you can actually basically if you, the idea is that you should have a system where you can log in and do things. You will always have that.
Right.
If you, for example, misconfigure your DNS, you do not have internet, no problem. You know that you've done it, you can always fix it, right? If push comes to shove, you can always do a diff from what's the default config and the changes I have made, and then you can fix things. That's also possible. Yeah, locally you can do that. Yeah.
How do you compare between this and Raspberry Pi?
So Raspberry Pi is basically, let me issue this command and then then let me answer this, okay? So let's see something, okay? So I'm gonna say Docker,
Oh, we should leave in like 3 minutes.
okay, Docker version, right? We do not have Docker, but if I do something called,
Oh, this is a KDE, right?
yeah, so you just rebase helper, it is asking me to choose what do you want to do. I'm rebasing. Yeah, so I'm saying rebase, and then I'm saying it says Aurora DX. DX is developer experience, right? So I'm selecting that, and then it is going to ask me, hey, what do you want? Which one do you choose? Which branch? I'm saying stable, right? And then it says, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Is that okay? I'm saying yes. And now it's going to go and download a whole bunch of stuff, okay? While this is happening,
Oh yeah, which screen?
so I have to choose something here.
Yeah, just choose the latest one.
Yeah. Okay, so while this is happening, right, I can continue to work in this system. Like for example, I can just open the browser. It is actually practically installing a new version of the operating system. I can just like go to, do stuff, again, get my fix.
That's the promise of like Linux, but Ubuntu doesn't deliver this.
Ubuntu does not have this
No.
because Ubuntu is not a immutable distribution.
So where is the Linux community? Where is the group where you can go and ask them, should I start with Ubuntu or should I start with something else?
Oh,
Because I need that 800 help number.
that doesn't exist. I mean, there's
No, it exists. Not a central location, but you can go to Reddit, you can go to Stack Overflow. I mean, but after ChatGPT, Stack Overflow is kind of going down. So
yeah, honestly, ChatGPT.
yeah. So and you can also chat with ChatGPT.
Like if you don't prompt it properly, it will send you
No, but for this kind
For
of
you,
like a feather in the wind.
you can come to Medina Labs.
yeah.
That's true.
It's different. People have different opinions, and there's so many different communities. There's no one community.
Yeah.
Where did you guys start your AAA or your 800?
I'll tell you my story. So basically, I think 2005, I was a Windows guy before then, right? So 2005, it occurred to me. So from Pakistan, right? So everyone's using pirated software. It's a thing. It's a normal thing, right? Somehow, like in Matrix, you become aware that it's a matrix, right? I don't know what happened to me, but I was like, oh, I'm using pirated software. Isn't this also not okay? Like, it's like stealing and stuff, right? So once this occurred to me, I was like, I'm gonna buy. So then I was like, hey, how much does it cost? Turned out it was around 11,000 rupees at that time, which as a student now, I don't have that kind of money. So what do? Then I came upon Linux. Oh, Linux is a free operating system that you can do. At that time, there was this thing called Mandrake Linux.
Interesting. What is this?
It's gone now. It was called Mandrake. It became Mandriva then, and I think it's still.
It's worse than
Oh, it was based on, it was an RPM based system if I remember correctly. And so I basically installed that, and I basically bought a book,
Oh, you
the
bought
old,
Yes,
the old-fashioned way, right? So then there's a reading, and then that's how I learned it.
Facebook for dummies and
You know what happened? I learned it purely like out of this experience, right? But when I came to the U.S., my very first project, So there were like a couple guys who came before me and they left because the project was, it had migration elements and you had to be really good at the Windows side of things and as well as the Linux side of things. A lot of the people who were coming in, they were either good with Windows or Linux. I did not plan for this. I just, alhamdulillah, that makes sense? So I was able to do a very good job for that project, right? Simply because of.
The yellow pages of answering questions. So who was your yellow pages?
So for me, it was internet. It was, at that time, there was a site still around. It's called linuxquestions.org.
That's what I mean.
But again, it's not one site. Like he said, you just Google it, the topic that you are interested in, Google it, and then you will see a bunch of things, and then you go to whatever makes sense to you, right? So anyways, the Discord's a thing as well. Yeah. So this guy is downloading, and I was still able to use the operating system, right? No problem. So,
We should
yeah.
leave this on. It's 1 minute and 45 now.
Yeah.
We can make it tipsy bubbles.
One last one.
So yeah, any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, for the kids, I want them to like get familiar with Linux and this thing.
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
I mean, you can just like, I would say that Bluefin or Aurora, if they're into gaming, there is another version. It's called Bazite.
Gaming, there's also what's it called? The Valve one.
Which one?
The one by Valve, the one that comes with the Steam OS.
SteamOS, yeah.
Yeah, it's very popular.
So let's. So this thing is called Bazite, right? So Bazite, Bluefin, Aurora, they're all based on something called Universal Blue. Bazite. So you can install one of the versions from these guys, right? And that works pretty well. Yeah, so basically if you scroll down, you will see here our images. They will say Aurora, so there's Aurora. You can visit their website. There's Bazite, and then there's Bluefin.
These guys are really good at it.
Yeah.
They're really nice. I've never worked with or used one of the products.
Yep. So that's what I was telling you, that there's lots to cover and the questions and all of that stuff, right? So if there is interest, we can do like workshops, but that are going to be more focused on specific topics, right? We can do that. But yeah, that's kind of like a. So Raspberry Pi, I actually built one yesterday. I should have brought it, but I do not have the power adapter for it. The normal wouldn't work, and it has specific power requirements. So I ordered the power adapter. But so Raspberry Pi is just like any other computer, except that it's like a low-powered computer. So there are 3 versions: 4 GB, 8 GB, and 16 GB, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And then you can also install this with SSD, right? So that makes it faster. So you can definitely create a desktop computer out of it. In fact, they also sell a desktop version of the Raspberry Pi. So, but I would say like it's ultimately going to cost you around $250. So if you're spending $250, I would rather have you spend an additional $250 and buy something for about $500 that's going to be like a proper computer.
I mean, if you spend $20 though, you can get like a Raspberry Pi functional computer.
Maybe if you're like getting secondhand or whatever, maybe, who knows, I don't know.
Even though, how much is a new like a Raspberry Pi 4? 200 if you.
So I bought a Raspberry 5 for $139.
Really?
16 GB version.
The 4?
16 GB version.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, the 8 GB version is $89.
Yeah, that's enough though. Like
Yeah.
that's for basic.
Yeah, depends on who is using. If it's a kid, probably it's good for them.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't. It would be too slow for me, but yeah.
Yeah. Also, if you want to use it as a server or something, it's
Yeah,
really
yeah. But get the SSD with it, because
it makes a big difference.
huge difference. If you are using the SSD, what is it called? I'm forgetting. Micro SD card. That's kind of slow.
Oh
Yeah.
CC or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I think any last questions?
Yeah, this was amazing. I learned
Yeah.
so much.
hopefully the main thing that I am interested in, my goal with this was that, you know, something to showcase so you guys know that there are other options, and not only just other options, but like really good options.
What was the DNS thing called?
Next DNS. Yeah,
So we will come Saturday,
inshallah.
2:30